dan in dobrodošli na skupni izjavi ministra za zunanje zadeve dr. Mira Cerarja in ministrice za zunanje zadeve Kraljevine Norveške in Eriksen Søreide. Najprej bi predala besedo zunanjemu ministru, potem takoj za njim še naši gosti. Hvala.
Dobar dan, sem skupaj med nami. Lepo pozdravljam zunanjo ministrico Kraljevine Norveške in Eriksen Søreide. Lahko rečem, da najin obisk, najino srečanje današnje utrjuje zelo dobre odnose med obema državama, ki smo jih vzpostavili v 27 letih od naše slovenske osamosvojitve. Naj povem, da gre za dve v marsičem zelo podobno misleči državi. Delimo številne podobne interese in se zavzemamo za zelo podobne ali iste cilje. Predvsem si tako Norveška kot Slovenija prizadevata za učinkovit multilateralizem, se pravi sodelovanje držav na globalni ravni, za človekove pravice, za enakost spolov, za pomoč ranljivim skupinam, predvsem pa tudi za varnost, stabilnost in blaginjo v svetu. Na gospodarskem področju imamo sicer dobro sodelovanje. Blagovna menjava je v letu 2018 zelo narasla in znaša 118 milijonov evrov, vendar pa oba meniva, da je mogoče prav na ekonomskem področju naše odnose še izboljšati, posebej vzpostaviti dodatne stike med gospodarskimi skupnostima in na ta način še ukrepiti, še povečati tako blagovno menjavo kot pretok turizma v obeh državah in seveda tudi sodelovanje na drugih področjih. Še posebej me veseli, da najdemo za Norveško skupne točke in interes na področju spodbujanja krožnega gospodarstva, na področju seveda prizadevanja za preprečevanje negativnih podnebnih sprememb. Zanimivo je tudi, da nima področje električne mobilnosti, kjer lahko najdemo številne sinergije, tako da verjamem, da to najino srečanje danes postavlja nek temelj za nadaljnje korake za uspešno sodelovanje na političnem, ekonomskem in pa tudi na drugih področjih. Govorila sva tudi na kratko o upravljanju z vodami. Še posebej vprašanje čezmejnih vodnih virov je nekaj, s čimer se želita obe državi intenzivno ukvarjati v prihodnjih letih. Za Slovenijo je to ena od prioritet in verjamem, da tudi tukaj bomo dobro sodelovali, tako kot denimo na področju aktivnosti, kjer gre za spopadanje z minami, za deminiranje minskih polj v številnih državah, ki so bile izpostavljene vojnam in vojnim konfliktom, oboroženim konfliktom. Tukaj bi se želel zahvaliti Norveški za izdaten prispevek, ki ga je namenila slovenska organizacija ITF. Gre za ustanovo za krepitev humanitarnih dejavnosti, še posebej deminiranja, pa tudi pomoči otrokom, ranljivim skupinam v državah, kjer so te skupine utrpele hude travme v vojnih konfliktih. Naj povem, da me zelo veseli tudi to, da delimo skupna stališča glede pomena stabilnosti v sferi Zahodnega Balkana. Tudi tukaj so možnosti za sodelovanje. Povedal sem, da je Slovenija v zadnjih nekaj letih vzpostavila tu doma projekt medijiranja v šolah, ki zelo prispeva k ozaveščanju varnosti v šolah, pa k zavestju človekovih pravic. In s tem projektom želimo pravzaprav zdaj iti v Bosno in Hercegovino, pomagati tam in tukaj vabim, da tudi Norveška po svojih zmožnostih sodeluje. In seveda, kar je zelo pomembno, Slovenija in Norveška sta zaveznici tudi v zvezi NATO. To zavezništvo, ki ni samo obrambno, ampak tudi politično, kot smo danes oba ugotavljala, je izrednega pomena za veliko varnost naših držav, hkrati pa pomeni tudi možnost za krepitev političnih odnosov, za krepitev tistih vrednot, za kateri si obe naši državi še kako prizadevata. Tako da tudi to je vez, ki povezuje obe državi. Naj omenim, da smo bili veseli norveških finančnih sredstev, ko smo v prejšnjem vladnem mandatu obnavljali oziroma vzpostavljali topilnico v Idriji. To je ta konkreten primer dobrega sodelovanja na področju kulturne ali pa gospodarske dediščine. No in za konec naj povem še to, da me zelo veseli, da sva v zelo prijateljskem pogovoru tudi skupaj z našimi diplomati prišla tudi do področja športa. Še posebej zimski športi nas zelo povezujejo, tudi spravljajo malce v konkurenco. Včasih smo boljši mi, včasih Norvežani, ampak to prijateljsko tekmovanje mora ostati. In tako v Planici kot v Lillehammerju in na drugih mestih se bomo vse srečevali. In všeč mi je, da znamo tudi preko športa najti skupne točke, tako veselja kot veliko sodelovanja.
Thank you very much, Mira. And first of all, I want to say a warm thank you for the invitation to come and also the program that you've made for me and my delegation here today. I think that this is cooperation and a partnership between two countries that can only grow and expand. And we've been touching upon many topics today where we see that there is room for more cooperation. You mentioned winter sports, and I cannot let the chance pass to, of course, say that this is probably the only challenge I see in our bilateral relationship is our very friendly but fierce competition in winter sports. So, as I said to your good ambassadors and diplomats, we'll be watching you carefully, just so you know. I want to also underline that we see the potential for deepening much of the cooperation that we already have. And you mentioned two new topics as well, circular economy, where we try to learn lessons from Slovenia and the way that you have been taking on the circular economy issue. We are about to produce our own strategy, and we will of course look to the good examples that you have made. Secondly, on e-mobility, you provide both very advanced technology, and you also have the same wish as we do of reducing climate and greenhouse emissions, and that is also why we are forging a green shift so that we have more electric cars. We now have, in March of this year, for the first time, the number of new electric cars is exceeding the number of regular cars bought in Norway. So this has been skyrocketing for some time, and it's an area where we absolutely can continue our cooperation. We have a very good and solid foundation both for our bilateral work but also for our European work through the EA and Norway grants, which has been vital in starting up much of our cooperation in areas of environment and energy, but also in education. Yes. And this is areas where we would like to continue, and we are also looking into how these areas could be a good catalyst for our business communities having closer cooperation. We think that there is a potential, and we have tasked our ambassadors to work more closely on that. I would also like to say that we, from Norway's side, really appreciate the fact that we have a like-minded country like Slovenia to work with multilaterally. One of the most concrete examples we have from recent months is how Slovenia was a champion in working together with Norway in the Human Rights Defender resolution. Without the help of Slovenia, we would never have come as far as we did with the resolution. And I really want to thank you for engaging so heavily in human rights issues, in the rule of law, in democracy. We see that there are challenges also in our own continent. It doesn't only happen far away, but it's also in our own continent. And I think that countries like ours, we have a responsibility to speak up, we have a responsibility to support civil society, and we have a responsibility to build rule of law and resilience in societies. The last point I want to mention is our very good cooperation as NATO allies. I think that what we have managed to do in NATO over the past years has been quite remarkable. NATO is, as you rightly point out, not only a military alliance, it is also a political alliance, and the values and the interests that bind us together are also what helps us if something were to happen. I sometimes use the example that we commit beyond our own immediate self-interest, which means that if anything happens somewhere in NATO territory, we are all ready to commit and to come to the defense of other countries, even though we risk our own soldiers' life and health. That's the core and that's the point of NATO. An attack on one is an attack on all. And the way that we have been developing together NATO over the past years is really a very good example of how our strongly shared values and shared interests have now materialized into a new and stronger NATO. This would never have been possible without the support, the help, the engagement of all NATO members and NATO countries. But I will put a special emphasis on the newer members as a founding member from 1949 and a bit of a newer member. Without the engagement that you have shown and the real interest in having this organization still remaining a strong alliance with strong cohesion, it would not have been possible. So I want to thank you for that. And that means a lot to the whole alliance. And it also means a lot to us who are, well, a bit older in our membership. So when we celebrated 70 years of NATO in Washington in the beginning of April together, I think it was very clear to see that the alliance is very strong, that both old and new members share the same vision and also share the same objectives for the alliance. So thank you very much for that engagement, and we will continue to cooperate closely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eno vprašanje za gospod ministrico, Sandra Brankovič, Radio Slovenija. Norveška je tudi članica šengenskega območja in je ena od 6 držav, ki so uvedle notranji nadzor na šengenskih mejah. In me zanima, ali nameravate podaljšati, ali Norveška namerava podaljšati ta nadzor, tako kot tudi še drugih 5 držav. In če da, s čim to utemeljuje. In zanima me tudi pogled Norveške na prihodnost Evrope. Hvala.
Well, to start with the first question you had, we make assessments on a regular basis and we follow closely what other countries in the region are doing. Because of course it has implications for us as well. If other countries in our immediate neighborhood prolong some of the border control, we will have to do the same. So we are in close contact with our neighbors and also doing assessments on a regular basis, and that we will continue to do that. On your question on the future of Europe and the EU, it's a large question, and I will try to be very brief in my answer to you. I see a Europe that has a huge potential for still being a very strong continent and a strong alliance. And I say that as a non-EU member, but a country who has a very close connection and close cooperation with the EU through the EEA agreement. And that is also a connection that is between our 2 countries through the EEA agreement. There are challenges in Europe that we have to deal with, and I mentioned some of them, that we also see challenges on the space for civil society and human rights, the rule of law also in Europe. We have to address that. We cannot quietly sit and see that the populations of Europe is not given their full human rights and their full space of civil society. At the same time, I see that there is a continent that really has a potential for even stronger cooperation and that shares the same values and many of the same interests, and I think that will continue in the future as well. So I'm a very convinced European, and I'm very proud of my own continent, and I want to see Europe and the EU succeed, even though I'm not an EU member.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.